Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by the Dean, Bill Kurelic, the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter in just a moment. Dan Rubin is off this week, so you guys are stuck with me all week. A lot to get into, 1 month from today, the number one safety in the country, Bralan Womack, makes his decision. Are the Buckeyes the favorite, even a slight favorite, or what's the latest? Bill's going to break that down for us. Mark's going to break down a couple of videos, including the newest Buckeye commit, Guilford, the wide receiver, and he's got another one as well, Cooper Whitten, the son of Jason Whitten. So we got much more. I'm going to ask these guys just about how crazy it is. Just kind of think back how much things have changed over the last 5 or so years in recruiting and everything with NIL, and we'll get into that, answer some of your questions as well. Before we bring the gentleman in, we'll let you guys know about Factor meals and a great deal you guys can get. This is awesome. Great company. You guys got to check this out. So summer's still in full swing. We've got plenty of summer left. Unless you cover Ohio State football, then your summer's almost over. Big Ten media days are today, and then the season will be here before we know it. That's a good thing. But for you guys, plenty of summer left, and probably one of the last things you want to do is be stuck inside on a nice day, cooking, prepping, cleaning up. Factor takes all that out of the equation, and it's not the microwave meals we grew up on. These are fresh, high quality, ready in 2 minutes because they come fresh, never frozen. You put them in your fridge, pop them in your microwave for 2 minutes, they're ready. I personally love their grilled chicken and sun-dried tomatoes meal. Many others, they have a filet mignon meal I really like. You got to try their delicious smoothies too. And we got a great deal for you guys. Get started at factormeals.com/bucknuts50 off. Use code Bucknuts50 off to get 50% off, plus free shipping on your first box. Yeah, you get half off, plus you get free shipping. That's fantastic. That's code Bucknuts50 off at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 off for 50% off, plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 off. Take advantage of that. All right, look at this. I get the treat talking to my guys. I haven't talked to my guys on this show in a while here. We got Mark Porter, the Grand Poobah. We've got Bill Kurelic, the Dean. Good to see you, gentlemen.
When you say my guys, you're the one who gave me the nickname, the Grand Poobah, and I'm not going to forget it. In a bad way.
Bill likes his nickname, so he's happy with me, but you don't like
Bill. Bill has a lockdown name. That's why. That's a solid naming there. I'm Fred freaking Flintstone because of you. Maybe Barney Rubble. I don't know.
You stole my thunder. I was going to start off with the Dave Biddle, the originator of the two nicknames, the Dean and the Grand Poobah. You stole my thunder. I mean, we're talking to the person that originated these, Mark. And personally, as a old guy who loved the Flintstones, I love the Grand Poobah nickname.
I love the Flintstones too. I mean, and Grand Poobah goes beyond Flintstones. It just means you're the king. You're the man.
I joke. As long as I get Betty and Wilma, I'm good.
As long as you have to use your feet to drive your car.
That all works.
Yeah. Maybe not that part. Maybe not that part. I'm trying to get everybody on here saying hi. Good morning, everybody. It's great to see everybody in here. Sue's even in here. Sue, it's been a while. Haven't seen Sue in a while.
Dave,
long-time listener.
Dave, those are great nicknames you came up with. When you see in our listeners, people on this show right now, talking about the nicknames.
Yes, and I don't even know who gave me the nickname Bids, but that's just caught on. I'll give you guys credit for that. How about that? I love it. The dynamic duo +1. That's right. Yeah, I'm just along for the ride. Dan is somewhere on a beach, I'm sure, watching, or maybe he'll watch. Maybe he'll watch the replay of it. Maybe not live. All right, let's get to matters of brass tacks, gentlemen. All right, so let's start with Bralan Womack. It's exactly 1 month from today, Bill. He makes his decision. Would you say the Buckeyes have a slight lead here? Just where are things at with Womack, the nation's number one safety?
When you first said, Dave, we're a month away, and I'm thinking August 21, August 22, right in there. That is the start of the high school football season here in Ohio. and it's only a month away. The kids are in their acclimation days and getting started, all that, but the actual games start that week. Kind of hard to believe that that's here already. And then right after that is, as you well know, Dave, the start of Ohio State's football schedule. And what a way to start it off with, Texas. So it's coming fast. It's definitely coming fast. And perhaps it is the biggest remaining announcement for Ohio State related. Of all the guys that visit Ohio State, there are still approximately 10 of them that haven't made a college choice. And to me, the biggest one remaining is Bralan Womack. And as you said, he's going to be announcing. He's had this date set for a long time. He made official visits to 4 schools in order. He started with Florida. He then went to Texas A&M. He went to Auburn June 13th, and then Ohio State June 20th. And to me, I really wouldn't be surprised if that might be the order he has the schools in reverse-wise right now. That I believe Ohio State and Auburn are at the top over Texas A&M and Florida. He has been for a couple of weeks now in kind of evaluation, discussion phase with his family. And those discussions, as we all know now, continue NIL discussions. And sometimes they go all the way up to the last hour or almost minute now. I think Ohio State is battling Auburn. There's a lot of reason. He likes Ohio State a lot, but he also has connections with Auburn as far as teammates, former teammates, and all that kind of thing. So it's going to be really interesting. I think I personally feel that as long as Ohio State is right there in regards to the NIL battle and all, that they have as good a shot or better than anyone. But again, those negotiations, those discussions and all, they will continue all the way up till his announcement.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be pretty nice. You have Caleb Downs, as someone mentioned. Lose Caleb Downs after this year. I know I'm not going out on a limb there. You bring in the number 1 safety to replace him. He also wears the number 2. And, Buckeyes brought in the number 1 corner this year in Devin Sanchez. So bringing the number 1 corner this year. How about bringing the number 1 safety for 2026? All right, so the most recent commitment in the 2026 class, wide receiver Jerquaden Guilford, 5th wide receiver in the class. He's a young man from Fort Wayne, Indiana, 4-star prospect according to the composite. Mark Porter, you have a video you want to show. Let me pull this up here. Boom. All right. Let's get to it here.
Yeah, I think we all trust Coach Hartline when he vets a player. I think that's one thing. And I think when you're taking a player from Indiana, we got some questions like, how's the competition? I think one of our readers or posters noticed that the stands are empty in some of these clips, which means it might not be the greatest draw on a Friday night in Indiana. And let's not spend this time knocking Indiana football, but he's blowing by and doing to this competition what he should do to this competition if he's truly a big-time player. And it's all big plays. It's all long runs. But Bill and I got to see him at camp, and we know he's been vetted properly. I compare him to like a Quincy Porter. I hate to use the names like Marvin Harrison, but he's got that big frame, and if when he develops, he'll be a little stronger in the lower body and run through people, and he can box people out. Now you see down around the goal line, provides the quarterback a big target area. This is about where Dan shuts it off and says the premium subscribers need to watch the rest of this. They need to subscribe. So you could probably pull it now if you want, Dave, but what we're getting here is when you build that receiver room, you're getting guys of different qualities, of different sizes, and this is going to fill your big-bodied, strong receiver role. He does come in and out of breaks. He runs a nice comeback route on this thing where, big guys don't always run comeback routes that well. So, yeah, let's put a 4-star by this guy, and let's not worry that he's from Indiana or if he's not a 5-star.
I was going to say, like, if Brian Hartline wants you, I mean, there's nobody better in this business than Brian Hartline at identifying wide receiver talent and landing it.
He could literally offer a midget at this point, and I'd be like, you know what? It's probably going to work out somehow. He's got a plan, and I don't know what they're going to do with that kid out there 4 foot tall, but I trust Brian Hartline to make it work.
He's got a really good vertical. There's something about that. He's tough.
Coach
Tough-
Hartline must have saw
kid.
something, and I'm not even going to question it.
That's hilarious. I mean, seriously, Heartline is just, jeez, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
They lose Emeka Egbuka, who's not just the all-time leading receiver at Ohio State as far as receptions, a great leader, first-round pick, and it's like, boom, this might be the best wide receiver room I've seen at Ohio State this year, or ever. Led by, of course, J.J. Smith, who's going to be at Big Ten Media Days today, along with Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, and Ryan Day. Of course, we have Pat Murphy and Steve Hellwagon on the scene, so keep it locked to Bucknuts for that. All right, let's bounce.
And Heartline, by the way, has a little track record. He's brought some pretty darn good wide receivers from the state of Indiana to Ohio State, including Terry McLaurin, who had a good career at Ohio State. But I don't know that people thought when he got done with Ohio State he was going to do what he has done in the NFL. He's been spectacular.
Wasn't that Zach Smith, though? That was Urban and Zach.
Yeah, you're right. I was thinking. I didn't think back. I was thinking back that far. That was Zach Smith that actually brought him to Ohio State.
It was Urban, and they made him. Yeah. And then Terry came to camp, and then they said, "We like you, but we wouldn't need you to come back." He was Mr. Football in Indiana. He had to come back and earn his offer. Did redshirted. That was
Mylan Graham is one that Heartline absolutely did bring in that I think is going to be. You mentioned how good the Ohio State wide receiver room is. Mylan Graham, as good as he is not up at the top of the food chain right now. Now I can see him getting there eventually because he is really good. But Ohio State has had some really good success getting some wide receivers out of Indiana over the past 10 plus years.
They've also had some offensive linemen they've gotten out of the state of Indiana the last few years. But this year, they're doing a great job getting offensive linemen out of the state of Ohio. They also have a couple they've gotten out of Arizona. Let's talk about this, Bill. You brought this up as a good idea for a topic. We're so used to it's a really good class for Ohio State, except the O-line. There are a bunch of, you got like three stars or whatever. Not this year. So Sam Greer is now up to the number 5 offensive tackle in the country, according to the composite. Maxwell Riley holding steady, the number 8 offensive tackle in the country. They also have Aaron Thomas and Tucker Smith in the class, and I don't think Tyler Bowen's done by any means. So it's really nice to see that you have the O-line helping bump the class for once, especially those 2 young men from Ohio.
Yeah, I was trying to think back how long it's been since when you kind of grade the position groups at Ohio State. What's their best position group? Is it wide receiver? Is it quarterback? And you grade them. And quite often it is wide receiver. I mean, Brian Hartline has been spectacular. But when is the last time that you look at the position groups that Ohio State's bringing in and you put offensive line up there as one of the top groups? It's been a while. And this year I think you can do that absolutely with this group that Justin Fry had some some play in all this because he started recruiting some of he started recruiting all of these guys to some extent, and then Tyler Bowen finished it off. You've got Maxwell Riley, who I think is going to be a great player, whether it be guard or tackle for Ohio State. You've got Sam Greer, who I think is going to be a fantastic offensive tackle for the Buckeyes. Those are the 2 Ohioans, and their future, as Urban would say, the future is very bright. Aaron Thomas, I think he's got a lot of potential. He was one of the first guys that when Tyler Bowen took over Ohio State, he was one of the first guys that Bowen contacted. He is from Phoenix Mountain Point High School in Arizona. He's 6'7", 300 pounds, and he's got a high ceiling. He really, I think, can be a good one. And then a guy that I think gets overlooked a great deal is Tucker Smith, also from Arizona, not the same high school. He is from Sandra Day O'Connor High School in the Phoenix area. If you watch Tucker Smith's tape, and hopefully I think Mark has that, but if you watch that, you're going to be impressed. He might be a 3-star offensive lineman to some, but I think by the time he's done this year, he's going to be a 4-star offensive lineman. And Ohio State, like I can tell you, Ohio State and Tyler Bowen like Tucker Smith a lot.
Before we go back to Mark, I'm going to add, well, both of you can chime in on this. I mean, is it safe to say, top to bottom, including head coach all the way to whoever is the worst of the position coaches as recruiters, is this the best staff they've had? Because I don't see, other than I guess LJB, and that's only reason is because he's up in age and he gets negative recruited against. It just seems like they've got like left and right just absolute knockout recruiters. I mean, obviously Hartline being top of the list, but look what Bowen's now doing. Okay, look what Laughlin's doing at running back. Look what Laurinaitis is doing. Look what Walton and Guerreri are doing. I mean, Bill and Bailey at tight end, and Fessler at quarterback, and Ryan Day himself, and Mark Pantoni heading up, the general manager position. Is this the best you've seen, Bill?
Yeah, I've talked about this at times that I'm so old it's kind of hard to remember all of the various staffs, but it is one of the best in my opinion. I really have to take a deep dive to go into every staff over the past almost 40 years, but this is absolutely one of the best. And the guy we mentioned at the end there, Dave, Billy Fessler, he had a really hard job this year to do. That is, you've already got a 2027 quarterback committed who is one of the best in the country in Brady Edmonds. And you've got a 25 guy in Tavian St. Clair. So how are you going to bring when you've got those two guys, one already at Ohio State and one that is committed to Ohio State for the future, how are you going to bring a good quarterback in between them? That's a tough sell. And what does Billy Fessler do? He goes and finds Luke Fahey, who I think is underrated, but is still a four-star guy. Very, very good. He went his entire junior season without throwing an interception, playing in a pretty good conference, a pretty good competition in California. Yet Fessler was able to convince him to be a Buckeye. So Fessler's right in there too, I think, with that great group of recruiters that we talked about.
Just responding. So for those that are wondering, Big Ten Media Days, I should have mentioned this earlier, with it being in Vegas, doesn't start until 2 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be Tony Petiti, his opening comments. And I think it goes Bielema. So it's like you got 6 teams today, 6 teams tomorrow, 6 teams Thursday. Ohio State's today. Ryan Day will go last as far as at the podium today. That'll be about 3:30 p.m. Eastern because they're obviously on West Coast time out there, Pacific time. They're 3 hours behind us. So it's going to get kicking off at 2 o'clock today with Petiti's comments, and then Ryan Day around 3:30. We'll have full coverage on Bucknuts. All right, let's get back. Go ahead.
And Mark, do you have that Tucker Smith video, by the way?
We have watched that before, and I actually have the Cooper Whitten pulled up right now.
Okay.
But I will. You guys are doing so well without me. This is Cooper Whitten. We'll go there in a minute.
Yeah.
The Tucker Smith, and you guys talked O-line, and you guys are doing such a good job. I was going to take a nap, but it seemed like we did a great job in Ohio with the offensive line and took those big time guys. And then the guys we took nationally weren't 5-star guys. But what I noticed about them and what I like about them, and Bill said they were so excited about, is they took 2 projects that are the longest human beings you could find. Tucker Smith has a wingspan. He looks like Sam Greer when Sam Greer was like a year or so. So the way I kind of put it when we watched film, see, if Tucker Smith was at Hoban, he'd look a lot more like Sam Greer. I don't think he's as developed playing where he's at. But when I think he gets to Ohio State, you're going to see him make up that ground. And all of a sudden you're going to be looking at a kid who has the length and the size that you can't buy. And I think what you're arguing there is let's take one of these projects that if we don't take him, he's going to go somewhere else and he's going to end up a 1st or 2nd round draft pick in a couple of years because somewhere else is going to take the time to let him sit and come out of, let's put him into bake and take him out in 20 minutes. Let's not take him out early. So I think that's what you got with some of these other guys. Instead of maybe a 6'3" guard who looks really good on tape right now and it's kind of a finished project and he's got like 4 or 5 stars, but that's kind of who he is and you don't have much upside left when he gets to campus. So I think they took kids, long story short, with great upside. So if we want to go on to the next subject, Cooper Whitten.
Cooper Whitten, the son, for those who are just tuning in, Cooper Whitten is the son of Jason Whitten. And as we were joking before we started, if Dan was in his usual seat today co-hosting the show or hosting the show, he would go on a 10-minute diatribe reviewing every big catch Jason Whitten made during his time with the Dallas Cowboys. We're not going to do that. Go ahead, Mr. Porter.
And this kid is awesome. I heard about him through the Army All-American Bowl a couple years ago. His explosion, he's a dual threat tight end where he's out here in the slot. Watch him run this seam. He's going to split these safeties, and it looks like a receiver running down through the middle of the field there. Great blocker. You're getting the most complete tight end probably in the class if you get this type of tight end. And, it's almost cliche. You have a dad that's a tight end in the NFL. I think you're going to have a few tricks up your sleeve earlier in your career, but it's not just the tricks up his sleeve. I mean, these seam patterns, he's intercepting the ball from a receiver. He's down in the same range. So the long speed, the way when you have a dual threat tight end, it just lets you keep him on the field and line him up in spots where it doesn't give away what you're doing. Where when some guys are only in at slot, maybe think of a guy like Kyle Pitts. When he comes into the game, everybody knows he's in to catch the ball. If he's not in the game, they're running the ball. Cooper Whitten does not have that type of tell associated with him. Here's some of the blocking clips. We'll be featuring him a couple days from now, but boy, great all-around tight end. And we joke, Bill and I will start showing these great prospects into the future, and we start teasing guys. I would hate it if this is one of those guys we don't get because he's really darn good.
And I would say, 5 years ago, whenever it might be, good luck getting a top tight end when they never give the tight end more than maybe 20 receptions all season. And that's changed a little bit with Jeremy Ruckert. And then Cade Stover having back-to-back seasons, well over 30 receptions and becoming a third-round pick. I think that helps recruiting a lot. And then you see what G. Scott did. You bring in Max Clare. I think he's going to have a big year. So now that they've built momentum where they can land them. I like the Roberts kid they landed. He looked really good in the spring. Kid they landed in the 2025 class. All right. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. All right, where are we going to go next here? Let's see. Let's just get to some broad perspective stuff. I'm going to get your guys' take on this. Take a step back and just think about how much stuff has changed in the last 5 years or so with NIL, the portal, everything. Could you ever imagine anything like this happening? And do you think it's going to settle down anytime soon? We'll start with Mark and then go to Bill.
I actually didn't know you were going to ask this question, but I was thinking about this yesterday and actually went to a deeper answer. Some things that we said today is Larry Johnson takes a little heat because he's older. Zach Smith gets credit for bringing in this receiver. The reason those two comments, tie in with what I'm saying here is let's go back to the 1980s or 90s and the big four, like the great Dwayne Long would always say, or Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Michigan. And recruiting was nowhere near what it is. You didn't have the internet. You didn't really know about players that weren't in your area. And the biggest sin for any coach would be that if a couple years, when the NFL draft comes around, if a player from Ohio was drafted in that first or second round and he didn't go to Ohio State, everyone in the building would say, what position was he at? And they'd look at the offensive line coach and say, how did you let this first-round talent get to Notre Dame, Michigan, or Penn State? He was right in our backyard. And that's the type of offense that would get you fired. Hey, if we have first- or second-round talent in Ohio at any position and you don't get them, what's the matter with you? It's Ohio State. They should come here. Is that the thinking or the lay of the land for back then? I think that's the way it was. Now, that same mentality – we were killing Justin Fry last year for not getting players, and he turned out to be a really good coach. We've killed other players or other coaches in the past when they don't get a player. We give credit to guys who get a player when maybe it wasn't them. Maybe Ohio State got the player more than their personality got the player. But to bring it to your point of the question you're asking is what's different now is you cannot blame these coaches when they don't land a big-time player from Ohio. Because it's money. And that's how the landscape has changed where, the couple defensive linemen didn't come in this class. And I said, don't you guys dare start on Larry Johnson right now because Larry Johnson's not the one writing the check for $500,000 a year to get that player or Larry. Because in the past, it would be, how did you misidentify this player? Now we've identified him. We know he's great, but we just can't exactly put our money into this and make it a sane decision for the rest of our program and our team. And I think now with money and how does it change in, the last 5 years, Bill and Dan and I talk about this all the time. The traditional tea leaves, just burn them, because you can't tell where a kid's going to go anymore, because Bill said it earlier, up to the minute these NIL deals are being offered. You could have a kid on Tuesday, and Wednesday morning someone would call him and say, hey, what was your last offer? We're going to add 50,000 to it or 100,000 to it. And the whole world is blown up. So covering recruiting has not been, we all look like geniuses and wow, those guys are really plugged in. They know what's happening 3-4 days in advance. Nobody does, not the staff room at Ohio State. So I know that was a long answer for that, but yeah, I think in the past it was more, it's on you to land it, but now it's a salary cap thing. We say that guys in the NFL that, how did Jerry Jones get Pickens? Money. It's not like the Dallas Cowboys are the best recruiters of any team out there. They simply had the most money to offer the guy, or the draft pick to get him out of there, wanted him the most. It's not a recruiting thing where, hey, we took him to dinner and Jerry won him over. That's not how that works in the NFL. So I think we're in the NFL days of college football.
Yeah, Bill, I mean, I never thought I'd go over to the Woody Hayes Center. It used to be like when I first got on the beat, you have certain guys would have like some decent cars over there. So a lot of guys would have like, just absolute like junkers, what you would consider just like broken down cars. I remember, not to call him out or anything, because he ended up being great, but I remember Chris Vance had a car, wide receiver Chris Vance had a car that every time I saw him, I was worried the thing was going to break down. Fast forward to today. You go to the players' parking lot, it looks like a freaking car show. There's Lambos, there's every type of nice truck you could ever see. And that's just one of many examples. Bill, you've seen everything. Did you ever imagine we would see what we're seeing today? And do you think we're finally going to get some guardrails here?
Well, when you say that, talk about that, Dave, the first thing I think about is that, as you mentioned, in the days some time ago, you'd see a fair share of junker cars and that type of thing. And if you saw a really nice one, a player, you immediately thought, he must be getting that money under the table, or where's that car coming from, or whatever. Now you don't think that at all. I mean, like you said, Dave, the landscape has changed when it comes to the cars in the parking lot. No doubt about it.
I mean, what was CJ Stroud drive? Maybe it wasn't a Lambo. I know somebody at Ohio State had one.
Yeah,
CJ, I think it was a funny story. Like they gave him a Rolls Royce and he got something else, like a Bentley. Dude, and I'm happy for those guys. I'm happy for them. It's just the massive change that I've seen is crazy. So Bill, it's got to be, I mean, go more into it. Just like, did you ever think that it's just absolutely surreal for you, everything that's happened, and just your thoughts overall on it?
Yeah, and a lot of it is good. I mean, I feel like the players should. I mean, the universities, are making big time money off of the player. I think the players should be compensated or engaged in that earning process and all, because they're the ones that are doing the work along with the coaches. But I still feel like, you said, when is it going to get settled? I don't know. You have the House settlement and all, but we don't know how that's going to. We're just in the infancy stages of this for that House settle. We don't know how it's going to turn out. The different schools are interpreting it different ways right now. Ohio State feels like they're interpreting it the way that is going to turn out to be what it should be. But my thing is still, as of right now, when NIL first came about, it was supposed to be to let the players cash in on what they have done in college. And I think that's right. But it's still not that way. It's still buying of players for what they've done in high school. And that's not the way it's intended to be. And I still hope and feel that it's going to get to that they are not, that the programs, the universities are not buying players for their signature and for coming to their school, but that the players are getting rewarded for what they've done on the field once they get to college. And I don't know how I don't know how long it's going to take to get that right, or if it will be right. But that's, to me, is still the thing that I would like to see is somehow that it turn into rewarding players for what they have done on the field rather than high school buying of players.
And the portal's been a huge change too. We'll get you guys out of here on this unless there's something else you guys want to add. But I'm going to ask you guys about the portal, and recruiting is always going to be super important. I'm not going to act like it's not important. It's extremely important, but it's lost a little bit of import because you lose out on a Caleb Downs. The next day he might transfer, or the next year he might transfer to you. You know, like I don't know. That was because that was the perfect storm with Saban retiring, but they finished number 2 for Caleb Downs. Boom, end up getting him the next year. That would have been impossible in years past. He would have had to sit out a year, and he never would have done that. How much, Mark, has the transfer portal lessened the importance of recruiting?
Yeah, like I just said, Larry Johnson could build a relationship. He could talk video games, be the most hip guy on earth, and really nail it down the center with all of his recruiting. But then the money pulls the rug out from underneath you, and he ends up at a place like Tennessee or Miami of Florida or Colorado or North Carolina for different reasons. And, you guys were talking, I was thinking the NFL went with the model of parity because all the NFL owners, their checkbook needed a healthy league. No one liked it when Jerry Jones and Eddie DeBartolo were spending $100 million on a roster and the rest of the league was spending $25 million on a roster, and there was a competitive unbalance. And we're in that stage right now where the haves are spending what they need to spend to build their teams, and the have-nots are struggling to get their kid a free pizza on Thursday night, and that's the NIL deal some of these kids are getting. And the point I'm trying to make is, if we're Ohio State, we don't want parity. We don't want an even playing field where everybody has the same cap number, and all of a sudden you're like the NFL. You can't spend more. You can't assert your greatness in a way financially that you would like to, and be able to dominate recruiting the way we are used to dominating recruiting. So if this House bill ever comes together and they say, hey, now there's a $25 million cap for each team. If you want to participate in it, here's college football. If you don't want to participate in it, I hear there's going to be a lower division where you don't have to participate in the cap. I mean, one of the versions of what's happening was spent to me, but as an Ohio State fan, you do not want this to happen. You want to leave it where we can spend more than everybody else. And, that's how you become the dominating year in and year out team. If it becomes fair, it's going to be about coaching again and recruiting again and who's the best at that. And we've always been the best at that, but we're back to the old days again, which take your pick.
And that's the thing, Bill. We'll get you out of here on this. Like, it feels like, in addition to what I asked Mark, I want to ask you this. It feels like we're going to be headed back to the era of the bag man. If certain schools play by the rules with this cap, Ohio State has like $18.5 million to give out, or $18 million because they added 91 scholarships. Some schools can give up to 21 million through the revenue sharing. But with them shooting down all these deals with collectives, which, by the way, topic for a different day, but I think all those deals these deals are getting shot down by the NIL clearinghouse. I think when the kids take them to court, the kids are going to win. The young men and their attorneys are going to win, because I just don't see how that's going to hold up despite the House settlement. But I don't know, man. It just feels like, I don't know. They need to have some guardrails, but I don't know if they will. And it feels like schools like Ohio State that are going to play by the rules, that's just going to open up the bag man again. I want you to get into that, Bill. And then, like I asked Mark, I mean, obviously recruiting is important, but how much importance has it lost? Because if you miss out on a guy, you can just go in the portal next year and load up.
Well, that transitions into probably my biggest concern is that, and the great Tom Hamilton, the Cleveland Indians, Cleveland Guardians.
You might get your name back. Yeah. You might get your name back, I hear.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath on that, but I think he said it best. He's Hall of Fame, going to be a Hall of Fame announcer come later this month, I believe. He's very knowledgeable in that he had at least one, if not two sons that were very good baseball players and were recruited to play baseball. As he said it, he said that if the coach yells at you in the practice in the morning, you may well be in the transfer portal that evening. It's just too easy to transfer now. the business of kids being able to freely transfer every single year and go to 4 colleges or 5 colleges in 5 years, that's the change I would like to see most. I absolutely think they should be able to transfer at least once freely, maybe twice tops, at least once.
Yeah.
But for them to be able to transfer 3 every single year freely, I don't think that's good for them. I don't think it's good for the school. I think that's one of the biggest changes I would like to see is limit it to 1 and maybe 2 free transfers for each student is what I would like to see. So you don't have open free agency for every player every year.
And I'll close on this. Ohio State is doing it better than anybody. Now, maybe things will change, but you look at how much they've benefited from NIL, how much they benefited from the portal. They do a great job in the portal, and they're not one of these programs, as you guys know, that's trying to turn over their roster. They just they pick and choose certain guys to bring in, and they've done a great job. So even with all the crazy changes, Ohio State's done a great job navigating it. All right, you guys did a great job as usual. This is a pleasure. I appreciate it. Grand Poobah, Mark Porter, the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Appreciate those guys. And thanks to all of you guys for tuning in. I appreciate that very much. Thanks again to Mark. Thanks again to Bill. I'll be with you guys tomorrow, probably with Bax. And we'll go from there. But thanks again to the Poobah, the Dean. Thanks to all of you. I appreciate it very much. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Go Bucks. Still basking. Oh, and don't forget about Big Ten Media Days today. Kicking off about 2 p.m. You can watch everything on Big Ten Network. 2 p.m. Eastern. That's when Petiti goes. Then there's going to be 6 head coaches. I think it's Bielema. Then I think it's Google Me. And then Ryan Day will be like the last of the 6 to go today, like around 3:30. So Big Ten Media Days. All of Ohio State stuff is today, including J.J. Smith, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles. I love that those are the 3 guys that Ryan Day picked to go. You might say, oh, it's obvious they're going to take Jeremiah Smith. A lot of times coaches wouldn't because he's only a sophomore. You want to throw a bone to maybe a junior or a senior. You could always bring him next year. It's pretty rare that they bring a sophomore, but I love that Ryan Day did that. Good, because that's part of still basking. See you guys.